What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pivot Mindset Podcast. My name is Justin. I'm your host. And if you are checking out this episode, we believe here that life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. Success is a deliberate decision. It's a choice that we make each and every day. We choose to be successful. And man, thanks for checking out this podcast. We just really hope to inspire you, to motivate you, to continue to change your life. And you change your life by changing your mindset and making the pivots, making those adjustments that's necessary. And man, got a jam-packed show for you today. Wanted to first get some housekeeping out of the way. Please, if you haven't yet, go ahead and give this podcast a rating and review. Like what are you waiting on? If you haven't yet, or I'm gonna ask you to go a little even step further. Share this with 5 of your friends. If you want to support the channel, the podcast, us being consistent to delivering you content, delivering you value, please share this with 5 people. That's all I ask. Please, that would be super helpful. If you're watching this on YouTube, same. Feel free to share it. Give the video a thumbs up. If to them YouTube folks to checking us out, I got a little bit of a different angle. So for those that are checking it out on YouTube, you'll probably see that. I'm gonna continue to mix up the podcast. I want to just continue to add value to this platform that we're building. This is still very early stages, and we're still getting started, man. Like, we're still trying this thing. We're still committing to the process and still committing to helping people with mindset. Man, I'm gonna be honest, like, ever since I really leaned into what mindset work was, I've just become obsessed with it. I think it's easy to say now that I'm just obsessed with mindset work. I'm just obsessed with doing the work necessary to get my mind right, because I have no doubt that there's nothing that if I can train my mind and I can get my mind right, there's really nothing that I can't do. It can't hold me back or stop me from doing much. I could truly do much more than I, at minimum, thought I could. And so that's what this podcast is for, is really to help you know the importance of mindset and to do your own mindset work, and to really hopefully give you some tools, some resources, some encouragement, some motivation to, like, kick your mindset in the right gear. Because it's something that, like, for me personally, I've got to do all the time. I gotta check on this mindset all the time, every single day. I've got to ask myself, where am I at? How you hanging in there? What kind of limiting beliefs? I got to check my thoughts. I got to check my thought life. So I think that's it for the housekeeping. All right, so let's jump into this. I want to talk about the topic of endurance. So what really got me wanting to talk about this is because, in my experience, I get the pleasure of working with high performers, working with entrepreneurs, helping people build out incredible businesses. And what that looks like often is, it looks like being there side by side with them as they go to build their dream life, whatever that looks like. It could be a business. It could be, just their lifestyle, finding themselves. Maybe they've lost themselves after sacrificing and dedicating it so much to other people. Whether it's like reimagining what their future could be like, right? Like that truly is defined by so many different things. But one of the things that I continue to bump into is I continue to run into the lack of endurance. And I think it's such an important topic to discuss, so I wanted to bring it up on this episode. And I want to ask you about your endurance today. I want to like really spend some time talking about endurance. So one thing that I know is that when it comes to building the kind of life that you want, often it takes a certain level of stamina to truly get your way out of there. It takes a certain amount of effort to truly outpace the years of baggage, the years of mindset, the years of, like, relationships, right? Like, we can often spend 20, 30, 40 years building this life that we don't like, right? And having this poor mindset and having money that we don't want, not making the money that we want to make, or not living where we want to live, or not having the ideal circumstance situation, right? We could spend 20, 30 years building the non-ideal circumstance. And then we finally decide that, hey, I want to change this. And changing that means you have to almost erase and go against what you've built for the last 20 years. And what I realize is that many of us do not have the stamina necessary to outperform or outpace the mediocre and the mundaneness that's always chasing after us. I'll repeat that again. Many of us don't have the endurance or the stamina necessary to outpace the mediocre or the mundaneness that's always chasing us. For anybody that's saying, hey, man, like, I'm going to do whatever I can to live the best life possible, and I'm going to make my stride to take that step and do what I got to do. The minute that you make that decision is the minute also that you've got to realize that it's not going to be easy and that it's going to take some work. And that if it took you 20 years to get to this low place, that could it be that it's going to take you more than 10 minutes to get out of it? And, I see this quite a bit with entrepreneurs. I see this a bit with, just people who are striving to become a different level of themselves. It can be very easy to do things in spurts, right? But not have the stamina to do it repeatedly and the endurance to do that over a long period of time. And what I'm afraid of, family, is that we've under prioritized the importance of endurance, and we've more so prioritized the quick win or the fleeting feeling of what it is to have short-term successes. And when you don't have those successes stacked for a long enough time, you'll get discouraged. So let me kind of give you guys a story to hopefully break this down a little further. So was it probably about 5 years ago now, I ran a marathon for the first time. And before I ran this marathon, I had never run any like formal long distance event. I had run track in high school. I played football all my life. So I was, a sprinter, did everything fast, right? Like nothing was just gingerly, like I wasn't just running to run. Like that whole thought process of like, hey, I'm gonna just go take a run. It's like, why, right? Like who would go take a run? Like that just wasn't me. That totally opposite of what was natural to me. But I wanted to be a part of what my church was doing, and we were raising money for kids, and we would get sponsors and people to sponsor us for every mile that we ran. And so I was like, yo, the best way to help the kids out the most is to get sponsors that have sponsor every mile, and the best way to get the most money from them is to run the full marathon, right? Run all 26.2 miles. So crazy boy, I did it. I went for it. I went all in. And if you haven't realized it yet, I'm an all-in kind of guy. And so I'm running a marathon, right? And what I realized was that most of the people that I had known and had trained with had only trained for and were running the half marathon, all right? So the first 10 miles, fun. We laughing, we joking. There's music playing. There's food coming out. Like people are giving us gel pouches and bananas and apples, and we running, right? We got all the people around us, family, you waving, people, all that stuff. It's all fun. And then we get closer to the half marathon mark. So it's like, the, what is it, like 16 miles or something like that. We get to that mark. All right, cool. Everybody, though, starts to drop. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot that I was the only one crazy enough to really run a full marathon that I knew at least. So I was like, all right, let's do it, right? And I trained for it, right? I had trained, I think, 4 months for this. So I was prepared from a physical condition perspective. But I wasn't prepared for the mental perspective. I wasn't prepared for what the mental battle would be. And so I get in, right? We're running, and mile 17 comes, mile 18 comes, mile 19 comes, mile 20 hits. And I remember mile 20 felt like a wall. Like it felt like I was hitting a wall because at this point, I had been running by myself primarily for a long stretch of time. Most of the people that I knew dropped off like 4 miles ago. And so for me, I had been running 30, 45 minutes at this point by myself. I got my music on, but at this point, right, like I'm getting bored and it's not as fun anymore. The crowds aren't there. There's more distance between the checkpoints, and there's less people on that trail on the half versus the full. And in that point, and this is where I want to bring this analogy home, is in that moment as I was running the full marathon, I realized that it wasn't that I just needed to like check into the race. It wasn't that I just needed to prepare for the race, but it was that I didn't, when I was in the middle of it, didn't realize the endurance that I really needed to run this race. Again, and I'm not talking about the physical endurance. For me, it was a mental endurance that I needed to have to run this race. It took me like 4 hours to run a race. I don't know if I've ever done anything just constantly for 4 straight hours. Like that's hard. That's just on, right? Like I've never worked for 4 straight hours solid without taking a break. I'm like, that's a long time to just be doing one straight task for the whole time without stopping, all that, right? And in that process, I learned what endurance really meant. And what endurance really means is it's when you no longer feel like it, that begins the start of endurance. Endurance starts where your will, your body, and your emotions want to stop. That is where endurance starts. Endurance starts when you don't no longer feel like going. That is when endurance starts. Endurance starts when you don't have what you feel the strength to continue to further on, to continue to push on. That is when endurance actually starts. And what I've realized, family, is that we often want to change our lives, but very few of us have the endurance necessary to change it. I repeat that again. We all want to change our lives. There's some version of us that we're going after. We're on this race of life trying to accomplish what we want to accomplish and to strive and to be the best version of ourselves and bless people and change our families and be supportive for other people and give as much as we can. Like we're all on that journey, right? I believe that's the community that we're like, that's what we want. But very rarely do we have the mental like correctness to say, you know what? Endurance doesn't actually start until my will stops. That's when endurance starts to kick in. And I had to, when I was running that marathon, like I had to really lean into like, well, what does endurance actually look like? And what does it feel like? And endurance is ugly. I'm gonna just tell you that, family. Like endurance is not a pretty, sexy thing. To have endurance means that you have calluses and that you have bumps and that you have bruises and that you've got splinters and blisters. Like to have endurance is ugly, because to have endurance, it means that you've trained for this. It means that you continue to push yourself and that you push your limits and that you push your bounds and you push what you thought was capable. Like endurance starts when your will, your body, your emotions, and your desires want to stop. That's when endurance starts. And so if you could have the life that you wanted already, you would have it. But the reason why you haven't had it is most of the time we won't lean into the endurance piece. Like we don't have the endurance truly necessary to go the mile. You don't have the true endurance to lose the kind of weight that you want to lose, because the minute that you lose 5 pounds and then you get happy with the scale and you don't actually build the real habit to deny yourself, and like you don't have the discipline necessary. That's why you won't get to the weight that you want. The reason why you won't have the amount of money in the bank account that you want is because you won't budget and you frivolously spend, and you don't have a financial plan. You go into the month without a plan and you just figure it out and you just wing it every month. And that's why. Like you might have all the smarts, you might have all the education and the principles and the strategies, but you've yet to deploy them. And deploy them long enough. Right? Like you've yet to deploy these strategies for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 3 years, right? Like what does endurance look like in your life? And if you truly did a self-inventory, I would be willing to bet that the aspects of you that are not desirable is because you've built a habit of giving up too early. If you're honest with yourself, the challenges that you have in your life, the things that you struggle with, the reason why you probably struggle in those areas is because you've yet to build up the endurance necessary to truly carry out that goal. And so I want to give you some keys, right? I don't want to just like open up the case of a can of worms, right? Without giving you hopefully some ways to get this endurance piece together. As a coach, I work, a lot of my clients struggle with endurance, right? And here's the other piece before I jump into some of the tips, is that this is, I think, why people burn out so often. Is people burn out because they just don't have endurance. Like it's literally the definition of burnout. Burnout is when you don't have any more left, right? You're burning too much at the wick. You don't have the stamina necessary to finish the race. That's burned out. So I think we're in a culture where so many people burn out, but I think they don't burn out because no one has taught them to train the body and their mind to be able to endure, right? Like we don't have enough mental toughness to push through the pain, to push through like the actual training process. If you've ever trained for anything, you're not going to get better always feeling good. You've got to get uncomfortable in order to push that boundary. If I want to lift more weight, I've got to know how heavy it is, and I've got to push myself to failure. And when I fail, there's aspects of my muscles that grow that then, I literally, get rid of that layer of muscle and build on a new layer. So now when I try to lift it again, my body is ready for it. That's the same thing that has to happen with anything in our life, family, is we've got to know that in order to prepare for this, it's not going to be sexy. Like in order to prepare and build yourself for the endurance necessary to get what you want to get out of life, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be cute. It's going to cause you to push yourself beyond your limitations. It's going to cost you your blood. It's going to cost you your sweat. It's going to cost you your tears. It may cost you relationships. It may cost you status quo. It may cost you your reputation. It may cost you all the things. It's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be easy. All right. And so endurance is what we're missing, our family. I think endurance is something that so many of us struggle with. We just don't have the endurance necessary. All right. So let me give you some tips on this. So if endurance is a training problem, it just means we have to train, right? If I wanted to learn how to run longer, I just have to run longer, right? It's that simple, guys. Let's not overcomplicate this, okay? So I want you to start to stack up things in your life that you that you haven't accomplished yet. And again, the probable reason why you haven't accomplished it is because you don't have the endurance necessary. So if you write those things on a list, I want you to take out a piece of paper and I want you to write those things that you struggle with right now that you've yet to accomplish in your life on a piece of paper on one side. On the left-hand side, I want you to write that down, right? It could be losing 10 pounds. It could be gaining 10 pounds of muscle. It could be, saving $10,000. It could be getting out of debt. It could be whatever, right? Whatever the things are. That's on one side of the paper. Now, what I want you to be able to do on the other side is I want you to link why you haven't accomplished those things yet. Like, what disciplines have you yet to what disciplines have you yet to conquer that's holding you back, that's on the other side of that accomplishment, right? Because when we're talking at this level, there's a discipline on the other side of that accomplishment, right? So if you want to get that accomplishment, you got to go through the discipline to actually get that accomplishment. So on the left-hand side, write everything that you're struggling with. And then I want you to create another sheet. I want you to write down right next to it the disciplines that you have to lean into to allow you to accomplish those things, right? So if it's going to the gym, I want you to write down, all right, I need to start eating better and being more mindful of my eating. Maybe you start to implement a fast, or maybe you start to do, a daytime fast, or maybe you start to intermittent fast or something like that, right? Maybe you start to do those things to jolt your body. But here's the hard part, is once you write all those things down, right, and the disciplines necessary, get truly documenting, why am I not accomplishing these things? Because it has to go through your psyche. It has to flow through your mindset. If this stuff just stays in your head, you won't actually do it. You got to get this stuff on paper. So now once you finally look down at your piece of paper and see, like, man, here's the things that I've yet to accomplish, and here's the disciplines as to the reasons why I haven't yet accomplished them. Now, here's the fun part. And this is the part that since you haven't been able to do it yet, it means that you can't do it. I'm gonna just say that now. Not saying that you don't have the ability to do it, but right now in your current capacity, if you haven't done it yet, it means that you can't do it. So that there would need to be something that changes that will allow you to be able to do it, to go from the can't to the can, right? How do you go from the can't to the can? I'm going to ask you that you would actually get somebody to help you go from the can't to the can. I don't know why we don't lean into this much, but we very rarely ask people for accountability. And I'm going to ask you, if you're really serious about accomplishing goals, and if you struggle with endurance, that you get a trainer, right? Just like I would get a physical trainer to help me run a marathon, or I get a physical trainer to help me accomplish whatever my goals are in the gym. I want you to get an accountability trainer. I want you to get somebody that can literally look at this paper and you check in with on a very frequent basis, right? I want you to find accountability, because the reason why you can't is because you can't yet, right? The reason why you haven't been able to accomplish is because you can't. So we got to get you from that can't to the can. And I believe there's a person in your life that can be there to help you get from the can't to the can. And that'll hold you accountable, truly, if this is important to you, from the can't to the can. Now, what this person is going to do is this person is going to be one of the most nagging and annoying people in your life, right? Somebody that will really be excited about holding you accountable and helping you build this endurance. And I want you have to change your mindset on this. This isn't just like you accomplishing anything for the sake of accomplishing anything. This is you getting the chance to become a better version of yourself. And if you could be faithful over the small things, you could start to stack up wins over the larger things. If you could be more disciplined on cleaning up after yourself or making up the bed, you'll be more disciplined about saving money, right? Like these are all muscles. The discipline is often a muscle that's established. And so you're going to find the most annoying person that you know that's always active, that'll always be willing to text you, that always got some free time, right? And you're going to have those people be the ones that hold you accountable, right? And then put some kind of wager on it. Don't shortchange yourself, literally, right? Put some kind of wager on it. Put some kind of bet that there would be a lot of pain on the other side if you don't accomplish it. If you miss a deadline, right? And it's like breaking those things down into mini micro goals. So if it's the weight thing, you know, the struggle with weight is that you haven't been eating clean, and then you have a meal plan dialed in. Now you would maybe send that person a quick photo of your plate every time you're eating something. And now you're holding accountability there. So it's like maybe you send them a picture of your plate and you have to weigh in every single week. And then that becomes your accountability. If you're serious about these kind of things, these is what people need and do to generate the strength and the stamina to build out the endurance. There is no escape of it, guys. Like there's no easy way to do it. I wish there was like some magic pill you could swallow to just get endurance and get discipline, but you've got to find a way to build it. And if you haven't found a way mentally yet to build it on your own, I challenge you to get someone to be a part of your journey with you to help encourage you, strengthen you, motivate you as you go for the path that you're on. All right. And so that's all I've got for you in this episode. Again, guys, like I want to help encourage you around endurance. I think so many of us struggle with levels of endurance and that we aren't accomplishing what we want to accomplish because of the time horizon that it really takes to be successful. And we underestimate what that time horizon really is. And we don't have the endurance that allows us to hang in there long enough to get the result that we want. And so then we give up early and we rob ourselves of the reward that our dreams have always been wanting us to receive. And so don't let endurance be the thing that stops you from accomplishing. There's so many other things that are going to try to stop you. Don't let endurance and your discipline be one of them. All right. And so I appreciate you checking out this episode. Remember, give this podcast a rating or review. And remember, we here believe that life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. Peace.